So classification of anemia, it can be due to decreased red cell production or it can be due to increased red cell destruction or loss. So decreased red cell production can be due to stem cell failure, progenital cell failure, precursor cell failure, where the examples are given in each category. Aplastic anemia, the chronic, it can be due to chronic renal failure, it can be due to megaloblastic anemia, iron deficiency anemia, thalassemia, etc. Whereas the second the second categorization, you can say increased red cell destruction or loss. It can be either due to acquired causes or it can be due to hereditary causes. The acquired causes can be acute blood loss, hypersplenism, antibody-mediated micro and macro angiopathy. The second hereditary causes can be due to membrane defects, it can be due to globin defects, it can be due to enzyme defects. So there are several causes of anemia based on decreased red cell production or increased red cell destruction. So next type of classification is etiological classification. Mainly there is a blood loss anemia. So I told you there is an increased red cell destruction or it can be due to decreased red cell production. So blood loss anemia. Anemia due to blood loss mainly occurs due to acute hemorrhage or chronic hemorrhage. It can be due to either acute hemorrhage or it can be due to chronic hemorrhage. Acute hemorrhage. Anemia due to acute hemorrhage depends on the extent of blood loss and the time that has lapsed since bleeding. In acute blood loss, usually there is a reduction in the total blood volume. Therefore, the hemoglobin in the residual blood is normal. However, when the compensatory mechanism set in to expand the blood volume, there is a hemodilution occurring which decreases the hemoglobin content. So the compensatory mechanism set in to expand the blood volume, there occurs a process known as hemodilution which can decrease the hemoglobin content. So at last, therefore, the estimation of hemoglobin after few hours of acute blood loss does not assess the actual degree of anemia. So here estimation of hemoglobin after few hours of acute blood loss does not assess the actual degree of anemia. That's an important point. Coming to chronic hemorrhage. Chronic hemorrhage occurs mainly in gastrointestinal, genitourinary, respiratory tract diseases, etc. In GIT, the blood loss can be due to peptic ulcer, hemorrhoids, hiatus hernia, carcinoma of the stomach and colon, esophageal varices, chronic aspirin ingestion, ulcerative colitis, hookworm infestation, etc. The respiratory diseases can be due to that produces epistaxis can be either due to hemoptysis that occurs in pulmonary tuberculosis, bronchogenic carcinoma that produces anemia. Genitourinary diseases can be either the cause hematuria and hemoglobinuria that can produce anemia. Hematuria and hemoglobinuria produces anemia. Disease of the genital tract. In females, loss of blood from the genital tract like menstrual disorders, especially in menorrhagia, in metrorrhagia, and uterine pathologies can produce anemia. What is aplastic anemia? Aplastic anemia is the anemia due to impaired red cell production. The marrow examination shows a near absence of hematopoietic precursor cells. What is hemolytic anemia? Hemolytic anemia results from increase in the rate of red cell destruction. Increase in the rate of red cell destruction. The defects causing premature red cell destruction may be divided into two broad categories. It can be either intracorpuscular or it can be extracorpuscular. So hemolytic anemia can be either intracorpuscular or extracorpuscular. So what are the causes of aplastic anemia? There are different causes of aplastic anemia. The box given here, you can see a list of causes which can cause aplastic anemia. They can be acquired conditions, it can be hereditary conditions, it can be idiopathic. Most common you can see is idiopathic. 65% of all the causes are idiopathic. Whereas acquired can be due to drugs like anti-cancer drugs or antibiotics like chloramphenicol, diuretics like acetazolamide, anticonvulsant drugs or chemicals like DDT, benzene, or viral infections like Epstein-Barr virus, hepatitis A, B, etc. Hereditary conditions are Fanconi anemia or Schwackman syndrome. What are the causes of hemolytic anemia? Again, there are a list of conditions or defects you can see in this list which causes hemolytic anemia. It can be, as I earlier told you, it can be either intracorpuscular defects or it can be extracorpuscular defects. Intracorpuscular defects can be due to membrane defects or hemoglobin defects or enzyme defects. Extracorpuscular defects can be either acquired or hereditary. So the intracorpuscular defects, it can be either membrane defects, means it can be hereditary spherocytosis, hereditary erythrocytosis, etc. Hemoglobin defects can be sickle cell anemia or HBC, HBE, HBD, etc. or thalassemia. Mainly it has major and minor forms of thalassemia. Enzyme defects can be pyruvate kinase deficiency or glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, G6PD deficiency. Extracorpuscular defects can be either acquired or hereditary. Acquired can be immune mechanism defect, problem in the immune mechanisms. It can be due to problem in the as a part of infections or burns or drug induced, etc. So it can be also hereditary in nature. So these are the several causes of hemolytic anemia. Coming to one of the important type of anemia is iron deficiency anemia. What is iron deficiency anemia? This is the commonest form of anemia in the developing countries, especially in India. It is the most common form of anemia which you can see come across in several, in like majority of the females have this problem. So it usually occurs due to the deficiency of iron in the diet. There are three major factors in the pathogenesis of IDA. IDA is a short form of iron deficiency anemia. That's why I have written in the heading. It can be increased physiological demand for iron. It can be due to inadequate iron intake. It can be due to pathological blood loss. Increased physiological demand for iron can occur in pregnancy, lactation, growing children. So there is a requirement of extra iron because there is a period of pregnancy, in the lactation, in the growing children, there is a requirement of an extra iron supply. So this also can increase physiological demand, can be one of the major factors in the pathogenesis of iron deficiency anemia. So in these groups, extra iron should be available in the diet, otherwise there can occur this type of anemia. Second one, inadequate iron intake that occurs due to deficiency in the diet. There is a decreased supplements of iron taken in the diet. The third reason can be pathological blood loss, like you can see in worm infestations, most commonly seen in children, worm infestations. It can be due to bleeding peptic ulcer. It can be due to hemorrhoids, piles, epistaxis, hemoptysis, where you can see in bronchogenic carcinoma, tuberculosis, etc. These are the reasons of pathological blood loss. So these are the several factors that can be a part of the pathogenesis of iron deficiency anemia. So this is the commonest type of anemia which you come across in India especially, and it can be due to the deficiency of iron in the diet. There are three factors mainly: increased physiological demand of iron, inadequate iron intake, or pathological blood loss. The next condition is hereditary spherocytosis. This is a hemolytic anemia in which the fundamental abnormality is an increased defect of red cell membrane. It is due to the decreased quantity of spectrin, which results in the spherocytic shape of the cell. The spherocytes have a decreased surface area to volume ratio, and the cells are more rigid. So when the cells, or therefore the cells which passes through the splenic bulb, they get destroyed. So when the cells pass through the splenic bulb, they are destroyed. So this is the autosomal dominant disorder which affects males and females equally. It affects both genders equally. The usual features of hereditary spherocytosis are anemia, jaundice, enlarged spleen, that is splenomegaly, and may present with gallstone also. It can also lead to cholelithiasis. The blood picture typically shows anemia with spherocytosis, increased osmotic fragility, hyperbilirubinemia, that is increase in the bilirubin count, and reticulocytosis. The anemia is normocytic normochromic anemia. You can see with morphologically normocytic normochromic anemia. Splenectomy helps in improving the condition. So the treatment can be splenectomy. Cutting the spleen has to be removed. That is the treatment for hereditary spherocytosis. This is the picture of peripheral blood smear showing the numerous spherocytes in hereditary spherocytosis. The first picture shows spherocytes in hereditary spherocytosis. The second picture, it shows the arrows. You can see the arrows indicated in the second picture is a spherical. These arrows is a spherical red cells. You can see spherical red cells with the arrows which are shown, two arrows in this picture. There are several spherocytes here. So presence of many spherical red cells you can see in hereditary spherocytosis. You take a smear and examine under the microscope. Coming to the other important aspect of anemia, the defects of anemia, sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia can be asked in physiology as well as biochemistry. Biochemistry it is commonly asked. What is sickle cell anemia? Sickle cell anemia is a hereditary disorder in which red cells contain an abnormal hemoglobin called HbS. HbS, an abnormal hemoglobin seen in sickle cell anemia. HbS is the hemoglobin in which glutamic acid is replaced by valine at the 6th position of the beta chain. There is a replacement of glutamic acid with valine at the 6th position of beta chain. This you have to keep in your mind. Several times it is asked. The glutamic acid is replaced by valine at the 6th position of beta chain. In the deoxygenated state, the conformational changes induced by HbS makes the cell more rigid and deformed to take the shape of a sickle. Therefore, the cells undergo intravascular hemolysis. So, this undergoes a mechanism of intravascular hemolysis. You can see in this picture the pathogenesis of sickle cell anemia. You can see there is a substitution of glutamic acid by valine on the 6th position of the beta chain. So there is a substitution of glutamic acid by valine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6th one. See, there's a point mutation in the sixth position of beta chain. Okay, that is what you're seeing in this diagram. See, whatever is reversibly sickled, and whereas irreversibly sickled, you can see oxygenation is reversibly sickled, the deoxygenation is irreversibly sickled here. The mechanism of sickling taking place. So at least you have to keep in your mind is the replacement of glutamic acid by valine at the sixth position of the beta chain is what you have to keep in your mind in sickle cell anemia. How can you diagnose sickle cell anemia? Diagnosis is usually made by sickle test. It is demonstrating the sickling of red cells when the blood is mixed with freshly prepared solution of a reducing agent like sodium metabisulfite. The second test you can do is hemoglobin solubility test. The second test is hemoglobin solubility test, where you can see there is a relative insolubility of reduced HbS in phosphate buffer, and you can do a test known as hemoglobin electrophoresis. So sickle test can be done, hemoglobin solubility test can be done, hemoglobin electrophoresis can be done. Hyposplenism is usually associated due to the microinfarctions in the spleen. Hypospleen is a commonly thing associated with the sickle cell anemia. Autosplenectomy may occur. The anemia is usually normocytic normochromic anemia. This is a picture which shows the blood smear which you can see in sickle cell anemia. Note the red cells in sickle shape here. Sickle shaped cells of RBs you can see in sickle cell anemia in a peripheral smear. Coming to the other important type of anemia is thalassemia. What is thalassemia? Thalassemia is a genetically determined heterogeneous group of commonest monogenic disorder in which the rate of synthesis of one or more types of hemoglobin polypeptide chain is decreased. It can be one polypeptide chain or it can be two type of hemoglobin polypeptide chain can be decreased here. So there are two types of thalassemia, mainly alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia. As I told you, there are two types of thalassemia, beta thalassemia and alpha thalassemia. In beta thalassemia, there is a failure to synthesize beta chain, which is more common. There is excess alpha chain production that damages the red cell precursor and red cells. So here the failure to synthesize beta chain is occurring, and there is an excess of alpha chain production here. There are many homozygous and heterozygous and major and minor forms of the disease. In beta thalassemia major, there are beta thalassemia major and beta thalassemia minor. In beta thalassemia major, anemia develops in first few months of life and becomes progressively severe. The anemia develops in the first few months of life here and it becomes progressively severe. There is splenomegaly, hepatomegaly and skeletal deformities are commonly seen in beta thalassemia. So the anemia is usually microcytic hypochromic here. All forms and combinations are not uncommon. So as I told you, thalassemia is a type of thalassemia, and iron deficiency anemia is an example for microcytic hypochromic anemia. This is the picture showing the peripheral blood smear in beta thalassemia major. You can see the presence of cystocyte, you can see the presence of microcytosis here, the microcytes here, and you can see the target cell. You can see the cystocyte here, you can see the microcytosis happening here, microcytosis, the target cells are here. So these are the picture, this is the picture showing the peripheral smear in beta thalassemia major. Coming to the second form of thalassemia, alpha thalassemia. Anemia of alpha thalassemia. Alpha thalassemia means there is a failure to synthesize alpha chain. So the anemia of alpha thalassemia is more hemolytic than this erythropoietic. It is more hemolytic form. The thalassemias are diagnosed by hemoglobin electrophoresis. It can be demonstration of HbH inclusions can be done. That is, in the absence of sufficient alpha chain, excess of beta or gamma chains aggregate to form HbH. Study of rate of globin chain synthesis, alkali denaturation test and acid elution test. So the two forms of thalassemia is beta and alpha thalassemia. Beta thalassemia, you can see there is a failure to synthesize the beta chain and there is an excess of alpha chain in beta thalassemia, whereas in alpha thalassemia the failure to synthesize alpha chain is seen and it is more hemolytic, and the thalassemias can be diagnosed. It can be diagnosed by hemoglobin electrophoresis. The demonstration of HbH inclusions can be done. The study of rate of globin chain synthesis can be tested or done. Alkali denaturation test and acid elution test are the other tests